Hello, everyone, and welcome to Got Thrones, a Game of Thrones podcast. I'm Alexandra August.
I'm Johnny Kolosinski.
And welcome to Game of Thrones Super Fight!
Woo!
Super Fight is a game in which we pick two Game of Thrones characters, we soup them up with ridiculous superpowers, and then we argue about who would win in a battle to the death.
Exactly. We've got superpowers like, for example, has 10 clones, but they keep shrinking, or is wearing a tutu that's on fire.
Yes, those were prominently featured in 2 of our previous episodes. If you're just now starting to listen, you can find a backlog of about 5 Super Fight episodes to listen to already on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Got Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
We can also be found on social media on Twitter at GotThronesPcast, Facebook at facebook.com/GotThrones, and on the web at GotThrones.com.
All of this is correct. So, some big news this week, or interesting news.
So, an HBO announced this week that they are considering, as they have been for a while, they've been very coy about saying, well, yes, we would just love the idea of doing a Game of Thrones spinoff or prequel. And George R. Martin's like, yes, it would be wonderful. They've been saying this for like 2 years.
Yeah, they even talked about when, Winds of Winter was going to be coming out in 2015, that, we'll just do a Robert's Rebellion series or some Dunk and Egg stories, so that way the books can beat the show.
But there've been very little. There's been very little in the way of specifics coming out of HBO. It seems like a foregone conclusion that, of course, they would want more Game of Thrones content after the show ends in 2018, but they've been, for obvious reasons, probably just because they like to mess with us, or because they don't have anything as of yet, they've been very tight-lipped about what the nature of that content, whether it'll be a spin-off series, whether it'll be, a few different movies or a couple of miniseries. It's way too early to tell, and given how big how big the A Song of Ice and Fire world is, and the vastness and complexity of that universe, there's a lot they can do. So it's a veritable buffet of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But this week, we finally got some concrete news.
Yeah, they've not only said that
We're developing.
looking at spin-offs, but they have developing spin-offs, yes. But they've named 4 head writers. We don't know whether they'll be accepting scripts and producing scripts from all of them, but there are 4 writers in the works.
Well, there's 4 different projects in the works, and that's about all we know. And they each have 4 different writers. George R. Martin is writing on 2 of them with 2 of those writers. But they're 4 separate projects, and they're being developed independently. And once there are scripts for them, HBO will evaluate and move forward. So the question...
Right. This doesn't mean that we're going to be getting 4 different Game of Thrones series necessarily, but it also doesn't mean that we won't.
Exactly. It could just be that they're auditioning different voices for the same material to see what kind of feel they want, or just different ideas. It's still very, 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 very early at this point. So it could be that they're just looking at one project at the moment and just trying to figure out what the right mix is. And Johnny, like I said, Johnny and I think this is more likely, at least, that they are looking at a couple of different kinds of projects. And I have a couple of reasons for thinking that.
Right. A couple of kinds of projects, meaning maybe a miniseries, maybe a series, maybe something that's just one feature-length movie.
Yeah, a couple of... And so my reasons for this are twofold at this point. George R. R. Martin is attached to 2 of these projects, and we'll get into the writers in a minute, but he's working with Carly Rae, who was a staff writer on Westworld and Mad Men. And
also wrote Call Me Maybe. That's a lie. Not the same Carly Rae.
Not the same. She does kind of look like her, though.
She does.
If you look her up on IMDb, she looks like a Carly Rae Jepsen 20 years later. And she's very, very cute, attractive. But they do look kind of alike. And then he's also working with Jane Goldman of Kick-Ass, Kingsman, and the X-Men franchise fame. And I'm a huge Jane Goldman fan, and this makes me very, very happy that she's in the mix.
She does have a little bit of fantasy as opposed to just a sci-fi comic book in her backlog as well. She did write the screenplay for Stardust, the Neil Gaiman short story that was released in 2007.
I have such fond memories of that.
It was great.
It was delightful.
Yeah. And then also The Woman in Black, which was an adaptation of a theatrical play, horror suspense.
It starred Daniel Radcliffe. It was fucking terrifying.
Because Daniel Radcliffe has decided that his only career goals now are to creep you out.
So the fact that George R. Martin is attached to 2 of these projects, I don't feel like, it seems unlikely to me they would essentially audition him with different writers for the same project. He's been doing this for long enough, I think, that he would be able to instinctively, I mean, that's a big assumption.
Yeah.
I don't think
he has above and beyond his novel writing experience. He started out as a TV writer. So he doesn't need somebody to hold his hand through this.
Well, more what I was saying, I think he can probably guess at some chemistry, so I don't know that he'd be like, I can't decide between Carly Rae and Jane Goldman, let me just work with both of them. It seems more likely they would be, especially since Carly Rae and Jane Goldman have such different voices, it seems more likely they're working on 2 different things. Fingers crossed. It could be that they are just experimenting with different voices and different tones for whatever this project may be. So, like I said, we don't know, but it seems more likely that they're doing a couple of different things. And also, my other reason for that is because if... I've long said, I've long been a fan of Dunk and Egg, but I've also not been excited about it getting spun off, because if they're going to make a spin-off series with it, I don't think it has the stakes or, frankly, the subject matter to sustain a series like Game of Thrones, especially coming on the heels of Game of Thrones, because there's very little magic, it's very political, it's funny and cute, but it's kind of historical in context. There's so much that you kind of need to know going in about the history of the Targaryens and the Blackfyre rebellions and the line of succession, and like knowing about Bloodraven. All this kind of stuff helps when you kind of need to be pretty well steeped in the books to really get Dunk and Egg. You can do, because they haven't hit on the Blackfyre rebellion in the show, nor have they really touched on the identity of Bloodraven and who his history is, as opposed to, like, they kind of just conflated him with a 3-eyed crow and didn't give him any backstory. So a lot of those are 2 big themes in Dunk and Egg, and so I don't know that as a follow-up to Game of Thrones, if they decided to make it to a series, it would really land. A mini-series, on the other hand, would be awesome.
Yes.
I think there's enough material for that, and I think it's much more digestible in that. As kind of, it's almost like almost something that kind of like I hate to say this because they're lovely stories and I don't want to insult them, but it feels like a placeholder, like something to tide you over until they tackle something else that's as epic, like the Targaryen invasion or the coming of the First Men and the Long Night. Those are 2 like, those are my personal, like, fingers crossed favorites if we do get another series. Those are the ones that we get. But
if you had to pick one of these writers to write Dunk and Egg, which one would you think it'd be? I
think Jane Goldman would be great for Dunk and Egg if they toned down. I think her voice would be perfect for that. I don't know that the scale on which she usually writes would be perfect for that, but I think she's so fucking funny, and she's good at writing for kids. Like, if you look at Kick-Ass and Kingsman, those are young.
Not writing for kids as in writing for youth, but writing the voice of young people.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think that's good. Brian Helgeland is kind of the dark horse to me in this. I mean, he wrote LA Confidential, he wrote Mystic River, he also wrote A Knight's Tale. So he's definitely, I think, got the most adaptable biography, so I can't place him at all. Also, like, the only reason I think we're even mentioning Dunk and Egg is because George R. Martin has had a massive hard-on for getting that made for a long, long time. So I have a feeling that one of these is one of the ones he's working on is Dunk and Egg, and I'm kind of hoping it's the Jane Goldman one.
My thoughts are that he is working on Dunk and Egg, and he is working on essentially a World of Ice and Fire, a Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them sort of bouncing through the history as opposed to specific, like a tour of Planetos.
What would the format of that be, though?
Marco
Polo? Like a travel show?
Yeah. Not like a travel show, but
Anthony
like
Bourdain, Westeros Unknown?
Oh, I would watch that.
I would watch the shit out of
that. All right, somebody needs to fund us, and we'll make that. We will do a European tour what we'll do is we'll take that money and we'll pay someone to get us in the same room with Anthony Bourdain, and then we'll get him drunk and we'll make him sign a contract. And I feel like that's probably how a lot of things in his life happen. And then he just goes with it because he's Anthony Bourdain. And he is legend. Hot Pie Confidential.
If anybody could have pulled off Fire Festival, it's fucking Anthony Bourdain. Or at least he would have gotten there and been like, I can find a way to enjoy this. And just hopped the fence and gone over the sandals. by the way. I don't know. Short pick from Game of Thrones. I can't stop reading about this. I cannot stop reading about Fire Festival. It makes me so happy. The Schadenfreude is so strong.
Yeah, I don't know. Fuck it. Let's just do this and be legends is kind of how we started a podcast.
Yeah, a podcast, not a music festival.
Anyway, yeah, I would see World of Ice and Fire being something else he's involved in. I kind of see Max Bornstein, just looking at his monster credit, being hands-on in a Long Night series.
Ooh, or the Dance of the Dragons.
Or the Dance of the Dragons. That was my first thought, but for some reason it doesn't sit right. I think because there's more going on between humans than in, say, Godzilla vs. Kong.
True. It is at its nature. It is at its heart a political conflict that explodes into an amazing civil war. I do not know that I don't know that I'm with you on them doing a World of Ice and Fire or anything, just because it's so broad. And
yeah.
Dunk and Egg is already kind of like, they already kind of tool around Westeros and give you sort of picture of the Inner Kingdom, picture of that. It's, and which only makes me think that it's too similar. I don't know. Maybe it'd be interesting if they followed Maester Marwyn around.
Oh yeah,
but
that could be too.
I think if they're doing Dunk and Egg, another sort of survey course in Planetos or Westeros or Essos would be a little bit redundant, especially with how well he's written out The Long Night, The Dance of the Dragons, the Targaryen invasion, all even a Blackfire Rebellion. All of those are really, really, really fleshed out. Mm-hmm. So I have to believe they're pulling. My instinct is that they're pulling from something that's already telegraphed, and they fucking should, because I hate to say it, because I like to be as positive about the show as I can be, but it is a naked difference between when we ran out of George R. R. Martin's, we ran out of material versus before. It's really it's really stark, the difference. No pun intended.
Yeah, I was letting it go.
So, if you have any strong opinions on what these sequels, prequels, sister series, companion series may be, if there's going to be one, if there's going to be four, if it's going to be a mini-series, going to be a series, going to be a movie. If you have any opinions on that, let us know. You can email us at gotthronespodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook. We would love to hear what you think.
Yeah.
With that, I think we should get on to our battle.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a fun one. This is one that...
This is a matchup that I'm not totally certain didn't happen in some capacity at the Red Keep.
Maybe minus the chainsaws.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah. So our contenders this week.
Yeah. In one corner, I'm going to kill that accent now because I like you guys. We've got Cersei Lannister, armed with a chainsaw. Queen of the Andals and the First Men, Lady Protector of the Realm. First of her name. Her entire body is very sticky. And she is armed with a chainsaw. Which this fits.
It totally fits. Cersei is really happy right now. And in the other corner...
Yeah, is Lysa Tully Arryn.
Lysa Tully Arryn, who used to be a bear and has jellyfish instead of hands.
So Lysa, with a background as a bear, fits for me.
Mama Bear, yeah, in that capacity.
Mama Bear, and, I'm not seeing her as, a grizzly.
No, I think just
I'm seeing her as a really overprotective brown bear.
Yeah, I would think a really excitable, bitchy brown bear.
Can you imagine Sweet Robin's first day at college?
No.
She'd be the mom that goes to class.
She'd be the mom who was his roommate in his dorm room. So this battle, we agreed beforehand, can take place no other place but the Eyrie, because Lysa is full of bitchy agoraphobia and is not going to leave. Because why should she? And Cersei's crazy enough to hike those mountains by herself, approach the Bloody Gate, no one's prepared for the chainsaw, so she's just cutting a swath of bloody destruction all the way to the throne room until people just start running from her. And I imagine,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so I know this isn't an attribute, but in my head, she's wearing a Jason mask.
Oh, see, in my head, she's just got the Jack Nicholson from The Shining face going on.
Oh, I think she's got that too.
It's just under a mask.
Okay, and so this is what happens. She saws her way through the gate to the throne room where Lysa's locked herself in, with Sweet Robin at her breast, because where one goes, the other follows. She saws a hole in the door, sticks her face in it's the Jason mask, and then rips off the Jason mask to reveal it's Cersei.
So, but once they get up close, the combination of stickiness and jellyfish it actually gives Lysa an advantage.
Well,
as long as she keeps those hands on.
Well, real quick. Well, she has to. I don't think they're removable.
Oh, no, I mean, they are, because Cersei's got a chainsaw.
Well played. I think first things first, she opens the moon door.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, it's just not any fun otherwise. So here's the thing. I think Lysa has 2 jellyfish, and I think she's capable of stunning Cersei no problem.
Mm-hmm.
That said, Cersei's entire body is very sticky. So even if she is stunned and she wants to let go of the chainsaw because her muscles involuntarily try to do that, I don't know that she can.
Okay, that's a good point.
And once Lysa jellyfishes her, Lysa either has to... I don't know how jellyfish work. If they're sting, it's just if it's like a jolt, or like once they attach to you, they're attached.
It's pain. It's not like...
It's not electricity, which is what I was thinking.
It's not electricity. Yeah, this isn't an electric eel. But yeah, it's a pain if you're small enough, which people aren't. Potential paralyzation, temporary paralyzation, and that's how they feed and defend themselves. But even if Cersei does chop off one of those jellyfish with a chainsaw, the stingers still work.
And if they're stuck to her,
mm-hmm.
I think basically it's a race between Cersei. I don't know. I think it's going to depend entirely on how long it takes Lysa to bleed out.
Yeah, and frankly, I think that the jellyfish are enough to be an annoyance, but not enough to be debilitatory. Whereas a chainsaw...
You said paralyzation and debilitatory in the past 30 seconds, and I love it.
I got a new thesaurus, guys.
You made a new thesaurus, you mean? Oh. So the only thing that I'm feeling here... Okay, so I think we can say... I would assume that the jellyfish would be too big and debilitating if they were men of war. Like, I don't think Lysa could get through daily life. So I think you're right. I think they are your typical, like, what got Monica Geller on the beach in Friends. I'm in my head thinking head to toe or head to tentacles, maybe 2 feet. And
yeah, if that.
The only thing okay, so here's where this battle lives. Lysa has to get Cersei a jellyfish to the face. And since Cersei took off her Jason mask, that's doable. So Lysa has to jellyfish Cersei in the face. But Cersei has gotten real good with this chainsaw. So Lysa being able to do that is going to be hard. So I think they're fairly evenly matched with a slight advantage to Cersei, just because I don't think Lysa would be able to get a first strike at her face. Mm-hmm. And I think that the only thing she'd be able to do is like kind of get her on the side. And if she's wearing a gown of some kind, that's not going to do much. And Lysa's just going to get stuck there. And then then Lysa will be well within range of the chainsaw.
I'm gonna agree on all those fronts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a quick route to the face.
I agree. Unless... Yeah, there's just got to be some kind of distraction, and I don't know. Mm-hmm. Nobody likes Lysa, and if I saw batshit Cersei wielding a chainsaw cut her way into the throne room, I would head for the hills like nobody's business.
And also, Cersei is not the most distractible of Game of Thrones characters.
This is true. She's very single-minded.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also Lysa could just lead Cersei around the throne room enough that she catches on enough tapestries that eventually she gets tangled up because she's so sticky. So I'm not ready to call the first round for Cersei, because I think there's a lot Lysa could do to just delay.
Okay.
And Lysa's not carrying a chainsaw. Chainsaws are heavy.
Right.
And Cersei's probably drunk.
I don't know that drunkenness is a disadvantage for Cersei.
All right, I think we're up for round 2.
All right.
So Cersei, her entire body is very sticky. She is armed with a chainsaw, but now she is constantly taking selfies.
This still fits.
It really, really does fit. I pulled that and I was just like, oh my god, this is so perfect. Cersei would 100% do all of these things. Except maybe the sticky part, but
yeah,
constantly taking selfies is so
it's
apropos.
wine.
It's wine?
Yeah, she's she has gotten to the point where she is pickled and is not just sweating out, the reek of booze, but it is actual grape juice.
I think that, and like despite the many suspensions of disbelief we have to operate on to play this game, I don't know that I can give you that one.
Okay.
I want to, but as somebody who drinks a lot of wine and who also drank a lot of grape juice as a kid, I'm thinking this is more like pitch that's on her, or like at least honey or something like that.
Both fair.
Yeah. So what's Lysa's new ability?
Lysa is rabid.
We didn't really deal with the fact that she used to be a bear.
Yeah.
I don't really think that would make a huge difference, though.
Yeah, I mean, it explains the rabies.
Actually, yeah, I think those two go hand in hand. So
it'd give her more. It explains why she can hold her own against a chainsaw.
Yeah, and it explains why she has absolutely no fear. Whereas I feel like Lysa, who didn't used to be a bear, would have cowered at Cersei and would have done something like would have been like, I have to go make a phone call, and then like run away and gotten a bunch of guards.
Yeah.
Or something. So I think they used to be a bear. She's just more confrontational.
Yeah, and the rabbit adds to it. But I don't think it's a strict advantage.
Well, I think at this point now she and Cersei are operating on similar planes of out of fucks and madness.
Yeah.
So no fucks left in either of their purses. And they're both approaching similar levels of batshit crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Though Lysa is more animalistic. And I agree with you, I don't know that it's a huge advantage. Though might not be a huge advantage, I don't know that it's a huge disadvantage, and Cersei's is definitely a disadvantage.
Yeah, because now we were just talking about the fact that she's not distractible, and suddenly she is.
And she doesn't have a hand now. She has to operate the chainsaw with one hand, which is hard.
Here's how I see this ending.
Mm-hmm.
I see Cersei with the advantage. I see her in the victorious, in that moment of victory, and
Lysa is one jellyfish down.
Lysa is one jellyfish down, and she takes that I won shot, and Lysa kicks her out the moon door. Oh, but she's sticky.
Oh, this ends in a tragic draw rather than a brunched draw.
This is a first for us.
They go to brunch in hell. I call that, yes. Cersei nails before. So I think I'm safe. I would safely say in round 1, if they battled, that Cersei was able to get rid of one of Lysa's jellyfish. Lysa's wounded. Round 2 happens. Lysa is rabid, so now she's not feeling any pain, and she does attack Cersei. Cersei slaps her down with a foot, raises the chainsaw above her head, is about to take a victory selfie with Lysa bloodied behind her, when Lysa manages to scissor kick her or something out the moon door, but they go down together. The real victor here is Littlefinger, who of course probably set all of this up.
Yep, we'll give this one to Littlefinger.
We'll give it to Littlefinger. So Lysa and Cersei battle to the death, only to die together and eternally brunch in hell. And I think that'll do it for this week, folks.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for listening and playing along. Like we said, if you got some spin-off ideas, shoot them to our Twitter or our Facebook. Otherwise, we will talk to you next week.